Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Threadlings of Filmmaking Production Diary. I'm your host Miguel Ortega, and this is my co-host Tran Ma.
Hello, everyone.
Hope everybody's having a good day. Netbug, how are you? Yo yo yo. And then earlier we had Noble Spartan asking a question. Ted C, hello MT. That's us. I'm the M and she's the T. So we're showing the making of an animated short film in Unreal Engine. Now we're at 5.3. We did a short with 5.0 last time, and it turned out pretty good. And now we're on to a new one. Tran is going to show some, she's going to kick off and show the progress on this awesome set. Tran, do you want to
Yeah.
show?
Yeah, so I actually finished the set. I did show it last week. Also, by the way, we have our cameras off because it kind of bogs down our stream, especially when we're running a program like Unreal. So it gets pretty heavy on the machines. So here, it's pretty done. I don't think I had these toys in last week, right?
No, you didn't have the toys last week at all. You started doing one, remember?
Oh, yeah, I started doing a block in, and it actually ended up being like this guy. I did modify him, but here he is finished.
He's so cool looking. I love him. I love the colors you picked.
Uh, Thanks. This is also another version of him. So I took the same one, um, and I just kind of changed texture and then threw it, had it laying down. So I simmed it like that. Same thing with this. This is actually simmed to lay down. This guy's kind of weird,
I
but
like him.
yeah, but he's kind of like almost bad, like bad,
No,
like
I think he
badly.
looks cool. I love the octopus too.
I like the octopus.
Zoom in on the octopus.
Um, so here's the finished octopus. Here, I gave him like funny eyes because I thought it would work. I forget I have to like kind of slow down on the stream a little bit because it takes a
Yeah.
while to catch up. So he's like, I want those toys in my room. I want to be in this room too. The other things we have up here are these drawings. So Rain drew this.
Rain is a student at Gnomon.
Yeah. Well, she graduated already. She's a graduated student.
She graduated.
She also helped us on texturing other stuff. But she's also really great at drawing.
And she's interning for us now.
Yeah. She's awesome at drawing. And these are her sketches here.
Show them. You're not showing them at all.
Let's get close. So here's Cotton Mayo. I really like this one.
Get way closer. There you go.
They're playing. So the character Mayo is a kid. He's 8. He likes to draw. And this is his side of the room. These are all like the things that are inside his head. I guess. Hold on, let me slow down. Sorry. Yeah, so these are just like bits. Like the story is not about him drawing or anything.
Show like the little dragon guy at the underneath. That one right there.
This one?
No. The one that you have highlighted. Yeah.
Okay. Uh,
That looks awesome.
yeah. I'll move on to the next one. That's
so
another weird, funny one. So our story is not about him drawing, but like, when you're designing the room and creating it, it is an opportunity to tell more about the character. All right, here's another one here, and here's this other one here. I did color them in a little bit because this is all Rain's drawing. I just filled it in with some color and stuck it on these pieces of paper.
Did you fill it in Photoshop or did you fill it in Substance?
Substance. And then what I also did was just kind of tear the edges so that they're not super clean, just with an opacity map. It was like a really quick job. This crinkled paper was all simmed in Marvelous. So you can notice, like, if you look at this one, it's just kind of fallen over.
Zoom into the one of them too. I love that one.
Like that.
Yeah, it's so awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I got a lot done in a week. I'm looking at some of the comments. Let me back out here and position it like this. Let me see. I don't know if you showed these yet. Creepy toys fit right in. Oh, the stuffed animal is awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, those are cool. And then you started doing the blankets as well.
Oh, but where are the crayons?
That's a good question,
That is a
actually.
good question. We'll probably like
We could probably just find some
crayon.
pre-made crayons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't really want to make the crayon.
Yeah.
So also the other thing I did was lay out these books. I didn't make these. Ethan Clark made them. He did an amazing job.
Yeah.
And I think I did a couple of additional color variations on them because I think it was like the first thing he made. And then he made also this open book version, which is funny because it's quilted. I don't know. You gotta think about. I don't know how a character can read this, but it's okay.
Well, we have to put some kind of writing in it, right?
I guess I don't know what the writing is. We'll probably revisit that.
Yeah. Can you zoom in on the books?
But this is Cot's side of the room.
So Cot is the more intellectual one of the two, and then Mayo is all about the little monsters and drawing monsters.
Mayo's very carefree, so you can kind of see in his personality. He's a kid too, but yeah. Also here, I've completed this part of the floor. So there was
Donkey Show says, "I don't care who knows this. I love Miguel and Tran. I'm tired of hiding my feelings." That's Max.
that's Max. It's so funny. Here you can see I finished this part of the floor. So this didn't have anything. This carpet, it's been here. That's again Ethan's dresser. The other small bits I did was I simmed this little blanket. These small things really add up.
Zoom into that stuff. Keep zooming in.
It holds up.
Yeah.
You'll probably never see it this close
No, I know, but that's why I want to show it that close because
to show that how well it holds.
how well it holds. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
And you're not even looking at it through a sequencer camera.
no,
Once you put that in a sequencer camera, it's going to look way better.
let's see. There we are. Now it's like there's a camera. The other thing I also did is I painted these windows. So before I had like temporary textures, like they were from different windows, and I just added like some complexity. It's just a map that's been painted, so that far away it feels really complex. The same thing with this. Let me zoom in on that. So it's just a texture job. I mean, when you get up close, you can tell, but you're never supposed to get this close or anything like that. I don't know if the ceiling was done last time. I don't think this was done.
No.
Right? No, that wasn't done. So it's all pretty complete. Ceilings in this, why am I upside down? Well, Mayo actually like walks on walls.
And the ceiling.
Yeah, and the ceiling, that includes the ceiling. Let me change the lighting here. So we could also have shots. It is a little bit hard for me to navigate upside down, so I'm a little spinning weird. But you could have shots of him from his point of view from the ceiling. So all our ceilings have quite a bit of work. Let me just reorient myself. Yeah, that's what happens all the time when I get out. Yeah, so this is the room, all complete. Every little bit of detail is in. The doors have been replaced. This is also textured by Sasha. Again, this was done textured by Liz. Ethan made this entire thing. He did a nice job. The doors, can also open so you can see the inside. And then we have toys, books. Crayons are a great idea. We'll probably add things as we need. Once we put this in the shot, I did place some of these books on here. But yeah, I'm assuming things will be like, oh, that shot looks empty. We need to put this and this into stuff. But for now, I'd say it's pretty done.
Just set your f-stop to like 8 so that it doesn't go out of focus.
Okay.
You could do it in the sequencer. The aperture.
The aperture.
Yeah. It's in your sequencer. You have it right there.
Okay, it's already set to 8.
Okay, cool.
So that is it there.
That looks awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. And then when I'm showing it, I'm like, oh, here it is for 10 seconds.
Well, it's not going to be for 10 seconds in the film.
No, it's not. But when I'm on stream, like, I don't know, what else do you want to look at? Yeah, so everything's done. All the walls are done. The floors are done. We have toys. Crayons are actually a great idea. I also put a blanket here. It's the same one.
But it's folded differently.
Yeah, it's folded. This one's actually a pain to submit like this because one, folding is kind of tricky in Marvelous, and it's also double-sided, so it has thickness.
How do you go about that, the double-sided thing in Marvelous?
You can layer clone. That's what
Yeah.
I do. Yeah. Or you can duplicate and sew them together, but it's pretty tedious.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, if it's a cloth that has to be simmed, like constantly, like, you know, one of our first scenes is going to be Mayo sleeping, and he's going to have a blanket, and that's going to have to be a different blanket, because it has to be more simmable. These things here are just built like extremely dense and high poly. They're all triangulated. And the reason why we're doing that is because we can. It's like a dream come true for that detail in your scenes. And then, you know, it just lights so much nicer. And
Turn off do the light changes like you were showing me.
Okay. Well, I'll turn off these. There's something like really feels magical about that.
Yeah.
I can also change temperature. So right now I have like a really warm color. So it feels like the end of the day, there's a kind of cozy feel. But if I cool the light a little bit, this would feel more like daytime in this cool lighting, which is neat. Go keep this here. You know, we can even kill that light and maybe go for like, if you lower the intensity, try to do like a moon lighting. And then maybe these guys. I don't know. I have to look at like more moonlighting. I mean, I think moonlighting is like very staged anyway.
Yeah, moonlighting is black.
Yeah. So, yeah, there is no such thing as moonlighting. So you could also change the light in this room. We were thinking of doing like, what do you call those lightings? Like the thing that you called it. It's the effect that you see from like
Oh, a shadow light.
yeah, shadow lights that you see from Moroccan lamps. There's also a nighttime scene. But I feel like here, for me, you know, would I want to start them out like that? I don't know. The first shot, I almost want it to be more warm or something during the day. I don't know what you picture for the first scene when he's waking up. But there's
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the warm ones look really nice.
yeah. So that's this here. I don't know what else to really show.
So Bobby's saying, I imagine the real-time lighting rendering taxes the machine. I mean, it does, but like look how fast it's actually moving. Have you tried turning on Path Tracer just to see?
Okay.
I'm actually curious.
It's going to be really slow.
Let's just see.
Here it is.
Don't try to rotate it or else.
No, I know it's going to redo. It's going to be like, do it again. The one thing that I think that makes this, the interiors, of their like fabric world not work is I have subsurface on all the materials, and it helps make the fabric look really soft. But I bet you that destroys the render time.
Oh, with Path Tracer.
Yeah. Like I know you tried Path Tracer, but you don't have any SSS, and it takes a hit. Like if I turned off all the subsurface scattering, this would probably render much faster. But everything has subsurface scattering because I could put it on there. Yeah. What do you think? Can you see it?
I could see it. Well, it's still
Noisy.
resolving itself.
I don't
but
know if it really looks better. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the other one looks
Yeah.
fine.
It's also like this type of environment doesn't really switch over to path tracing well because one, these have subsurface scattering. I noticed like with SSS, your shaders change, like the way you dial it changes how in lumen and path tracing like dramatically. And the other thing that we're doing is these windows are just fake. They're just textured emissive material. So the only thing it does is emit light.
So if you wanted that moonlight, you'd have to. That was what was throwing off that effect. You'd have to go in and change that.
Yeah, I don't really, and the problem is I don't know right now what moonlight really looks like.
It's just like a desaturated dark blue.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it would also you need like fog rays or some kind of effect too.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing, like these lights, I mean, it's just a texture, so it doesn't emit fog. So it have to create like a different effect. But you can see here like how this is just default emissive. And then I could really crank it up.
You know what I would probably do for moonlight is just render it out in passes, where you turn everything basically black except for the windows. Or you could just crypto matte that back in, like hide the windows, have an actual light casting the God rays in, so you'd still have the frame.
Yeah. I wonder if I could, I mean, I haven't played around. I have this light out here. So this light, so this window here does emit light, but it also has a setting on it where shadow indirect only is checked on. And what that does is it allows shadows to be casted through. So if I were to kill these lights so that you can see, and that's the only light source I have here.
That looks very pretty.
Yeah, it's cool. You can see that this light, which is outside, just so you can see that, right, can cast shadow through that mesh. And that's why the windows are separate geometry. So like if you click on this whole entire wall, everything is together except for this piece of glass. And it's only so that I can have shadow indirect only on it, which allows, again, for this light to actually cast the shadow. I do think maybe if I increase the volumetric, so let's say I grab this and I set this to 20, it does cast, that is like a fog type glow, right?
That looks really nice. Yeah, it looks like an attic scene from the Goonies or something.
Yeah, I don't think the shape is super controlled. It just kind of, it's not like a ray effect.
Yeah, but I don't think you want that ray effect. I think like that looks more real to me.
Yeah, I used to like that. Then I'm like, isn't that cheesy?
Yeah, it's a little cheesy. It's a little. I'm making my first movie and I bought a fog machine.
Yeah. I used to like to put fog on everything, like so much. I don't do it as much anymore, but yeah, because I feel like fog would cover stuff up.
Yeah.
But that's how this is set up like that. So then that's how we're getting when I turn on these other lights. I don't know which light that is.
Cheesy is good.
I think it's this one here, that one here. You can see how like it's giving me like this nice, patterns on the wall. You don't see the pattern very clear,
But it doesn't matter. It feels natural.
Yeah, it feels natural, and it just kind of adds like this nice feeling to it. So it took me many years to understand how important windows windows are. And then the reason why these are modeled this way is just to the get those shapes. The other thing I think about when I'm making these windows is how detailed these panes can become. I can only get them detailed to a certain point, and then it won't really catch. They'll become too thin, and it won't really catch the light so much. The other thing I also think about is like when I build these frames, and like this frame, I'm actually trying to remove as much window space as I can, because I feel like windows tend to look really fake. So I'm trying to cover it up and get rid of space, but also keep the space.
Get the benefits of the window, but yeah,
Yeah,
minimize it at the same time.
yeah. So there's like a little kind of weird intuitive thought into that. So that's like what I have going on here.
So right now this is like Moroccan mid-century space age.
Yeah, I don't. It's a really strange aesthetic, and I think it kind of works.
It totally works.
Yeah, and this room is small, so it wasn't so hard to get done quickly. And again, we'll probably add things like there's going to be a poster on a wall that we really want to add. It's going to be a poster of Zort because in the story, Kot really looks up to Zort. But yeah, what I'm doing now,
So yeah, one side is the side of someone who wants to be a mage, and the other side is someone
who's just a kid,
who just wants to draw.
yeah, he just wants to play. These are all his toys. So, that's his personality. Let me minimize this and then pull this up. What I'm doing now here is I'm working on a window. So I'm actually looking at it in the front view where there's no perspective. That's my perspective here, and it's just plain, right? So I basically work as if I'm drawing with polygons, and once I'm happy with the design, I'll clean it up and extrude it, and I'll actually get like a final mesh from it. I use a lot of instancing. So up here, come back here. Actually, let me step back. The one thing I'm doing to help see design is when I hit 7, it makes everything black. And so I can really see the graphic look of it. Zort's room is going to be bigger. It's supposed to feel like, I don't know what's the word, like gothic.
Altery.
Yeah, like an altar and very gothic, and he's red. So the color of this room is going to be really driven by red lighting.
So Zord is like the Messiah figure, right? So this is his room, and he's like a Messiah, chosen one figure because he's born with a red crystal. The crystal is like their heart. All of them have a blue crystal except for Zord, and that's the pattern that you're seeing on the window. And we're trying to push the religious side of it a little bit. You can see like some of the what do you want to call it, like the flares coming out of the crystal, or almost like cross-like.
Yeah, so like the basic base design.
It's not a metaphor for Christianity or anything. It's just
Yeah.
religious iconography.
Yeah, we just want to push like they have this strong belief system um, because it really pushes the character and like the things that they're going through more.
Yeah, so the main thing is like our main guy, Cotton Mayo. Cott has a stutter and he wants to be a mage, and then Mayo doesn't speak very much at all, and he's kind of on the spectrum. And everyone assumes that they are, not worthy of being what they want to be. And one day they witness the murder of the chosen one, and no one believes them because they are the lowest ranking two in the entire colony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And originally it was like he was just chosen one wasn't really chosen. He was more regular. But we really wanted to push the direction. And then when you're talking about like, because this is like threadlings versus moth, right? Cloth people versus moths. A lot of people think moths are tiny because they are in real life, but these are like more monstrous. So we really wanted to push.
Moths actually get big. Remember when we saw one in our hallway that like was the size of your fist?
Yeah,
Remember?
they can get pretty big. Um, there's someone here. Hold the door, chosen. Yeah, we have Zor is the chosen one, but he's not the main character. So chosen one, like in the sense like Luke Skywalker is chosen, or Harry Potter is chosen, in that sense, right?
Yeah.
So, when you go into Zort's room, like it's an opportunity to say a lot about their personality. Just like when you look at Cotton Male's room, it's cute, it's like free. You kind of want to be in that room. I mean, that was the idea and design. It's
IRL moth stream when? What is that?
in real life, Moss Stream Wing. Hold
Damn, Donkey Show talks like a teenage girl.
on.
I need to learn all these things.
Yeah, like, what are you saying?
Uh, in real life, moth stream when? Okay.
I have no idea what that means. Okay. Yeah, I was confused.
So, but yeah, so that's basically what the story is. So these little dudes that don't speak well are not being heard, and they basically have to figure out what to do and overcome that gigantic hurdle. So the whole place, the whole colony is going to be filled with these symbols, which if you remember the old streams, there's the red crystals on all the windows. It's everywhere. They see this guy as he's the one that's going to end the war against these evil moths. The moths are also looked at more like demons in this film. They're not just like a predator, right? The way we saw it is like if you were made out of fabric and moths came at night
To eat you.
to eat you, to inject you with larvae, you would see them as demons. So the moths in this film are looked at as demons, right? So when they're praying to keep them away from the evil that are the moths. And the larva, if you know about moths, larva is what actually eats the fabric, not the actual moths.
Yeah.
So they get injected with larvae, and then when they're injected, it's almost like they're possessed, like the Exorcist, because they get eaten from within.
Yeah, so that is what happens, and it's what happens in real life. Like moths will lay eggs in organic fabric. So if you have like synthetic fabric, they're not interested in that. But like cottons and wool, and they lay their eggs in there, and when the eggs hatch, the larvae just eat up all the rugs. So it's not the adults that do that.
Yeah.
And that's like we've taken that and we've run away with that concept in our story big time. But anyway, what I was saying is like, the design in the room says a lot about the personality. And when I started jumping onto Zort's room, this window is like a huge centerpiece to his room because you walk in, it kind of feels like again, like an altar type of window, and it's really serious and gothic, and it's gonna be all red. It's gonna light most of the room, and it's gonna carry like the room a lot. So it's gonna be very red, very ominous type lighting in it. We did a moss stream a few months ago.
Yeah. So Donkey Show, we did. If you're talking about like when are we going to show the moths, we did show the moths. I mean, I'll pull them up in a little bit. I have a gray shaded one in a scene, so you can see like the scale difference. But I'll show you that in a little bit.
Yeah. So I don't, have much else to show.
I mean, that looks incredible. That window, you pulled that thing out
So
out of nowhere.
yeah. So I just designed this as I go.
Because I drew what the symbol should look like, and then Tran made it like 1,000 times better, like 1,000,000 times better.
Yeah. So I mean, it's pretty simple how I design. This and this side are instance, and each window is instance. What I have back here is like a giant polygon mesh that covers the whole window, and I have it hidden, and I'll make it live. And then let's say I'm up here, and I feel like I need to break this up. I'll just quad draw this, and you can see it just pops up on the other side, right? And I basically try to keep the ideas on how I'm designing this very simplistic. So as you notice here, there's a lot of crystal shape structure themes, right? And you can see that here, you see that here, and you can tell that these are made to be little crystals based on like the way they're cut. I didn't want the whole thing to be crystal shape because it would be really weird. The basic main shape that I really want to be red is all this here. I can't, let me pull up a pen because I can't really select it because they're merged. Here it is. So this here is actually the symbol of Zord. And he has a symbol. Kot doesn't get anything because he's not anybody special in this world. He's special to us. But in the...
Wait, I'm not seeing that.
You're not seeing that?
No.
Am I stuck?
Yeah, I think you're stuck. Now I see that.
Okay, so it took a moment to refresh. That is the basic symbol. And then this is the symbol that Miguel designed, and we're going to place it all over the rest of the set. The thing I didn't want were other areas to actually read like that. So if you look at these parts, and all these parts that are not crystal shape, they're made to look more like beams of light. I don't know if you picked up on that, Miguel.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good.
We even have the chant, like a religious chant that they say, like, praise be, what is it?
Praise be the red crystal's glory.
The red crystal's glory.
Yeah. So you could also see here like the diamond, and then I'm trying to emphasize the diamond, right? And then the colors will help pull this out. It's going to be mostly red with red shades, and then just like the beams in all the other spaces. The crystal could be seen as a few ways. You could see it like this. You could also see it as this big shape, right? That's like one big crystal and then a bunch of small crystals broken up in between it. So that's like the design. And I don't really have much else to say about that. These will be solid. And then what's different about this compared to like typical stained glass is they don't usually have gaps of light like this. But I actually thought to leave this because I think it will look cool. What I'll probably do is like break this up and then add areas so that they feel attached, so they're not like floating windows or whatever. So that's that. And then once part is done, I'll like re-kit bash some of the stuff from the set. I don't know if I should show it again or if anyone's seen it enough. What do you think?
Show it.
Okay. So let me load like another map. Give it a second. Oh, it looks like really funny while it's loading. And I have a lot of lights on. But I'm gonna grab like these arches out here, and they're gonna become part of his room. So when you look at Cotton Mayo's room, that was completely from scratch. You could also see here like the red crystal and the red rug. And I'll probably build the symbol three-dimensionally and place it in the middle around here. If I zoom over here, let's back up. That is the exterior of Zort's room. I'm not really sure what the exterior of Hotmail's room is. I think we'll figure that out when you start blocking stuff in. But that's his outside. And you can see his room is really grand because he's so special. He gets
Zoom into it
the best of everything.
because you have the themes of the crystal.
The themes are mostly at the top.
Yeah.
So the door is just a base door that has color swap out. This one here was designed to feel like flames. Sasha textured this. She did a great job. It feels like flames, I think.
Zoom into it.
And you can see like the fabric is more metallic.
I love the way that fabric looks.
Yeah, we use it on Voice in the Hollow. Also, the same exact texture.
Yeah.
It was on the Anteater. So it's meant to feel like fire. And then this is just the base door. Calm Mail is also using the same door. And the rest of, when you look at the color space, you could see how it's more beige. And then you have those pops of colors with that. But his room will be using this same set. And I'll just basically recolor it so that it has a red theme. And then we'll have like the central window. I want to build an actual altar, like Zort has like an altar to himself in their room. To me, it's kind of funny. I don't think it's supposed to be funny, but I just think the character is kind of funny.
Zort,
Yeah.
he's the best.
Yeah, Zort is an interesting character. So, yeah, I don't know if you want to show your stuff.
Yeah, I do. But just can you show that hallway again with the like the horror lighting that you had?
Okay, hold on. I can load. Give me a second. This set is like really big. I think that's kind of an understatement. Let me jump into the camera. That's a classroom. That's one hallway.
You can see that the diamond shapes are
in
all
here.
over the place. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to create like separate emblems. Where's that hall? Here it is.
That's it. Yeah.
So this section I call, yeah, I'm like so bad at navigating. I need to like learn how to use the keyboard because that's how everyone navigates in Unreal, except for me. I call this a hall of halls, and this could be like expanded to be bigger and longer and scarier. For now, it's just an area of halls. Like if you wanted to do like some kind of horror chase, like this would be perfect. And it just has like this dark, creepy atmosphere. There's no lights. It's just coming from these windows that are emissive.
You can
That's
see
it.
the red crystals on the side, by the way.
Yeah, and that they all have this red crystal feeling.
And it's a single red crystal per window, and all the other ones are blue. Yeah.
But I feel like here, this religious theme really comes through with the architecture and everything. When you think about it, it feels like very austere.
And just so you guys know, it's not like we started this and we're like, we're going to do a thing about religion at all. Like, it really just becomes like, okay, what makes the coolest story? And that's where we ended up.
Yeah, it's not based on any real religion
No.
at all. It's not really, it's just the idea like if you thought Harry Potter was religious or like Star Wars was religious, they just have a belief that
Which
there's
they
chosen.
are, though. I mean, right? Like you could say that the Jedi are very much like Buddhist.
I guess so. But what is Harry Potter? Like,
Yeah, I don't know I don't think Harry Potter's as
no, it's like magic.
religious. Yeah, it's just magic.
And in our world, it's the same. But the people do have a chosen one that they really believe in, because the chosen one's supposed to end the war with the moth. That's supposed to be his destiny. So, yeah, Netbugs, like, doesn't Unreal have that? Yeah, except that I've never played video games in my life on my computer. So I just don't know how to navigate like that. I think everybody knows how to do that because everyone's played a game on a PC and I don't. So yeah. Anyway, you want to show your stuff?
Yeah, let me think about how to show this. Okay. So this week for me was just trying to find more like R&D about how we're gonna do some of the exterior stuff. So this is by no means like the final design at all, right? So I'm just throwing stuff in there. But the big thing was like, how are we gonna get this macro looking world and not texture it the traditional sense? And I'll show you why in a minute. So like one of the things we noticed is like path tracer definitely looks much better uh, when we're doing like the foliage. You can see how much nicer that looks. So that's something that we're definitely going to look into. But the big thing is we need this to have a super like macro look to it. Like you're seeing like National Geographic thing on like mice or rats or some small
Critter.
critter. Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem is um, everything we're doing is being ran through Marvelous Designer, and this guy is 6 feet tall, right? So because he's 6 feet tall, the camera's not going to defocus the same. So step one was how are we going to get the camera inside of Unreal to defocus as much as we want it to defocus to give the sense that it is very macro, right? So first thing we realized is the cameras have to be 70 millimeter IMAX. And by doing that, you're making your film back so large that it allows for very shallow depth of field. If I were to go back and set this to 16:9 film, which I could do, right? So that looks completely out of focus, but you'll see if I were to try to get him in focus now, I may have to delete my keyframes here. Let me just delete them. There. So if I put him in focus, let me just frame this guy. Right around there. Too much goes in focus around him, and we wanted it to look even smaller than this, especially on the outdoor stuff. So this is as far as I could push the defocus, but you could see if I come over here and I set this to 70 millimeter, and now I zoom back in, same as I had him here, you're going to get a much stronger defocus. Let's tweak that here. So it feels much smaller, more like toy photography or something like that, which is what we wanted. So that was issue number one. Issue number two was I knew that we needed to have a lot of ground. And I like to use Gaia. The problem with Gaia is the texturing tools inside of Gaia are fantastic if you're doing like a very wide shot. But if you're trying to do something that is close up, like macro level stuff, the tools in there are not very good. They're just not going to hold up. It's going to look really pixelated. But the minute you try to use real texturing, you end up like bringing it into Substance Painter or whatever. You have to have so many UDIMs in order to get down to the ground level, like something like this, that it gets really crazy. So I want to use a tileable texture system, but the problem with that is it becomes very repetitive very fast. Now, that might not be a problem because we're so low to the ground that you're not even going to see the repetition. Uh, so this, I was trying to figure out a few things using the displacements with nanite and trying to break it up so it doesn't feel so repetitive. Um, and then also using this thing called the Easy Mapper, and I'll show you like what that does in a second. So like if I just grab this over here, and let's just come over here to our Easy Mapper under Materials, Masters, and I'm just going to come over here and create an instance, and I'll just call it Gnomon. Okay. And I'll drag this guy into this. So this is the base material we have. Okay. If I come over here, the shader is going to give us 3 different layers that we could use, starting from A, B, and C. A being your lowest level. So it's like the base level, level B is the mid level, level C is the top level. The order of it feels a little bit weird because it's almost in the reverse order visually as what you would expect, but that's something that if you use V-Ray layered shaders and stuff like that, you're used to that the order is always reversed visually from like layer system in Photoshop, where the top would be the top and then the bottom is the bottom. Here it's from the bottom down, represents bottom up. So it's a little bit confusing. Okay. So if you come over here, the first thing is you could turn on use displacement. And when you do that, you can see that this will actually start displacing the model. And you could come into any one of these. So I could go to like use material A adjustments. And you can see that when I do that, it brings down this little window here. And this allows me to go in and crank up the displacement intensities and the displacement contrast, which is kind of like adjusting your midpoint. But you can see you could start tearing it up. Like you definitely could start over cranking it. But now it's all displacing. So I'm going to reset that back to 1 and 1. But you can see that is now actual displacements. If you were to come over here and go to the clusters, you could see how it's all actually displacing here. So quite a bit of...
Now, does displacement work? This is all lumen, right? Does it work with nanite too? I mean, not ray tracing. Were there any issues?
When I turn on path tracing, it looks just like it's using the normal map. You could see it based on, just take a look at how it's interpenetrating with these rocks. When I set it to lit, you see that?
Yeah.
So it's not acting correctly. So now Path Tracer does support nanite, but I have to look and see how it supports displacements with nanite. So that's a separate thing. Okay,
Yeah.
so we have this. I'm going to turn off the use material adjustments over here, and let's just turn these guys on over here. So you can see I could come over here to my surfaces, my Megascan surfaces. Let's just minimize this. And we could start, for example, with, let's see, what would be good? I don't have a ton of shaders in here right now. Let's do gravel ground. Let's do dirt. So I'll put that in there, and then your ARD map or ORD map, okay, which is occlusion, roughness, and displacement, all in one. Each channel is being assigned to a different thing: occlusion, roughness, displacement. Okay, so pretty cool. And now you can see immediately we see that it's there and it's displacing. Now you're not going to get this beautiful fidelity displacements that you're going to get in V-Ray. You're just not. So you have to now come in here and find that balance of where it's passable, basically. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to turn on use material A adjustments. And over here, I could go to my displacement amount and displacement contrast. Let me bring this over here. And I could bring this up or down until it looks like what I want. Okay. We still want it to look like it's displacing, but you have to kind of balance it out. This is not unlike back in the days when you would do displacements in like Mentoray. You would have to, a pre 32-bit, you would have to not just set the displacement amount, but you would have to adjust your midpoint. And it was usually like negative -0.5 what your displacement amount was. So it's kind of like that, I've noticed. So it feels kind of like you're going back to those days, because see, now it's displacing and you can crank this up.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing. Like even in their, we're not using substrate, but when you look at their new shader system, it's like how it used to be dialed back in the days.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. And you
Yeah.
can see, if I go back to triangles, you can see how it's updating. And here you could kind of get an idea of how nanite works in general. So you could see as you get closer, the triangles get smaller, and as you get further away, they get bigger. Okay, so let's go back to our, let's just go back to lit. Okay, so we have that right there. So that's like your base shader. You have controls for everything here. So you could go to albedo tint, and you could tint this whatever color you want. So this is all built into the shader, which is great, because this would be a very complicated shader to build. Okay, cool. We could come over here to material B, turn on ARD map, again, occlusion, roughness, displacement. A is ambient occlusion. So it'll be called ORD or ARD occlusion, or ambient occlusion, which is the proper terminology, but they basically mean the same thing. Okay, and then we could come back over here. Let's go to something like this. Okay. And you're going to see that you don't see anything here. This is where you have to go in and start doing like what's called vertex blending. And when you do vertex blending, it is now going to look at your vertex paint in order to determine how it blends. Now, this thing has a very simple paint right here. You can actually see the paint stroke. And I'll show you how you could access that. So if I click on this thing and I go to the modeling tools and I go to attributes and I go to paint vertex colors, let's give it a second. Just takes a moment because it's a heavy model. Does 16-bit or higher res displacement map make a difference? I think this is already a high res displacement. So it's not like this is, I don't think this is an 8-bit displacement. But I'd have to do more tests. This is what I've been doing all week, is like figuring out all of this stuff. So I do have to test 32-bit. Okay, so you could see here, when you go into your vertex painting, you are now painting with RGB. So I'm going to just set this to red right now. I'm going to change the size. And you could see it turned all black and red, but I could come over here and set this to original material, and I could start painting where that extra shader is going to be applied. So now you're going in there and just breaking that up. So red is going to be assigned to one shader, green is going to be assigned to the other, and B is going to be assigned to the other. So you're putting these things in there, and each one is going to mask. Red, green, or blue is going to adjust a different one of those layers. Okay? So you have that, and at any point you could come back over here, lit vertex color, And if you want to get rid of it, you could just come over here, set this to black. And if I do that, just so you could see, you'll see the brush stroke right there. Okay, so press enter here. Sometimes you'll see a button down here that says accept, and sometimes you won't. If you want to accept it, just press enter. And even if the button is not there, it will accept it, which is kind of annoying. So that is like a buggy thing I've noticed. So that's what it's doing right now. It's accepting. So it's taking a second. Let's give it a minute. So you can see it is working. It's just doing its thing.
That takes, yeah.
It normally doesn't take this much time, but you know how it is with the stream.
Yeah.
I don't know if it just takes longer because it's streaming or it feels longer because you're streaming. Because if you're doing this on your own, this is where you're like, okay, I'm going to go get water. I'm going to go.
Take a quick break.
Yeah. But when you're doing the stream, it feels like an eternity.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is, well, this is going to be, so Bobby's saying, I see you're doing a lot of troubleshooting this week. Yeah, because this is going to be such an important part of the pipeline that we just have to figure this crap out.
It's such a different, completely different environment than the interior stuff and all the fabric world stuff.
So you can see, there it goes. So now it is, it's baked in. So I could just come back over here to selection. And let's go back into the shader. Okay. I've gotten this to happen quite a bit where it's still showing me this, which is kind of annoying. But you can see it's showing up correctly here. Let's just come over here and see. Okay. So next thing I could do is I could go over here to material AB controls. And you can see that when I do that, I can now blend between the two materials. You'll see in a second. I just got to dial it in. But you can see it's blending. So you can see there it's expanding. And then eventually it expands everywhere. Or I could bring it back down here. And now you could see only the peaks are starting to blend in, and everything else is our original layer. Do you see that? That's our original ground. And now as I bring the expand contract up, you're going to start seeing just the peaks of this painted layer poking through. If you've used the mixer before, that you know what this is basically doing. It's just adjusting the height, and the height is poking out. So now you're going to start getting something that is breaking up that repetition, and you're going to have certain things poking out. You could expand that with these guys over here and the mix, like we said. So something like that. Okay. So you could do that 3 separate times. Now, what I realized is I'm like, okay, that's cool, but painting vertexes is not the most interesting thing in the world because you're kind of using this goofy brush and trying to get this complexity in there. What if you wanted to use like a textured vertex ID. So this over here is something that I did in Gaia really quickly to test it. And I'm using like extreme, you know, this is by no means how I want it to look like. Like the colors are very not matching each other very well, right? They're not very nice. But you could see these little rocks poking through the grass. But what I did with this, which is different, is this was all using maps out of Gaia. So let's take a look at like how you would do that, and we'll do a new one here. So if I go to something like Gaia, let's open that up, and I'll minimize this in a second.
I think it looks pretty cool. Like, I still remember like using Unreal like version 5.
Yeah,
And it was, you couldn't displace, like that would just didn't work. Grass didn't work, like so many things.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So like let's just do like a little piece of ground in so I could come over, and this is not necessarily about Gaia as it is about creating the vector maps out of this thing. So like let's just come over here and do something simple. Like we could do let's see, let's do Badlands. Okay. So we'll do something like that. And I'll just go to influence and bring this down. So remember, what I'm trying to do here is just create a ground piece that looks like there's complexity to it. Okay, so something like that. But I want this to not feel like it's a gigantic mountain. That's why I'm kind of flattening this thing out. So we could do something like this, and maybe we could try something like this one. Let's give it a second. I'm gonna have to minimize Unreal. So just wait for this. Okay, so that's give it a second. It's having a hard time. I think it's because I have Unreal open, but I don't want to close it because then it'll take forever to open it back up. But we may have to.
All these programs are like really,
Yeah, they're monsters.
I remember thinking like that ZBrush was slow. It's not. It's so fast. Back in the days. But now it's like these, when you think about what it's doing, it's like real time displacing.
Yeah. I'm going to drop both of them to the floor. So this is really not, the igneous is really not doing a ton of stuff for me. Let's see. So we could do that, and let's just put these guys together. Let's add it. So let's just go with something like that. I don't want to overcomplicate this. Great, and then we'll just do like a simple erosion on this thing. Okay, great. And then this is the part that I guess is actually important. So we're going to go to this thing called a splat map. Okay. And the splat map is going to output channels into RGB. So what we need to do is we'll go over here to our data, and we could go to our slope is a good one. Flow is my favorite one, and then height. Okay, so let's just connect all of these to that erosion. Okay, so flow, we'll just do like primary and secondary. Let's take a look at that. That's perfect. We'll set it to 1:1. Maybe let's do tertiary as well. Let's do tertiary as well. Okay, great. Slope. We'll play with this until we get what we want. So slopes, I treat them like the rock edges that are poking out of the sand. So we'll do something like that. Okay, great. So flow, slope, and then height. Height's not going to have that much of a difference here, but let's just bring this down like that. Something like that is fine. So under splat map, we'll put the flow under red, slope under green, and height under blue. And it's going to give us this. Okay. So each one of these channels is going to have its own control. So we have to output this thing. So we'll go to our output. Okay. Open EXR 32-bit. That's fine. Let's set this, right click on this, mark for export. So we have our splat map as well, plus our output. We'll do a 4K output, and this is going to take a moment, just so you guys know. So there's going to be a little waiting period there. Our channels, that's all perfect. We'll select the output path here. So let me just create. Okay. And so 4K, and let's just start build. It's telling me it wants me to save my project first, so let's save this. And there it goes. So it's going to take a few minutes. Can you export an OBJ? Yes, you can. You could export the OBJ and bring it in as a nanite texture. So probably not a bad idea to do or to consider that approach. The reason why I didn't do that before, and maybe this is something that I need to reevaluate, is because we used to texture this stuff inside a substance, right? So if we brought in something that was too high res out of Gaia, we'd have to then re-UV it to get different UDIMs. And when we did that, you'd have to be UVing a model that was very high.
Yeah,
and
it would take forever.
it would take it in eternity. But
if you could even do it.
if you could even do it, yeah, it was like it's horrible. But now that we're doing the approach that I'm doing, it might actually allow us to skip one step in the process. So yeah, so let's go. So it output all the maps. So let's open up Nuke real quick, and let's just take a quick look at what we have. So it gave me these guys here. So you can see my splat map. And if I look over here, if I go to my red channel, my green channel, my blue channel. So a lot of interesting stuff. I think maybe I did too much flow here. There's too much, but it's okay. Let's see what else we have here. Our EXR. Okay, so let's actually do one more thing here. So I do want to make a change. So here I am going to mark for export on this guy. And under flow, I don't want tertiary. I just want primary and secondary. Like that. So I'm going to output it again. Sorry. There we go. Start build. And since we only have very little nodes, it's going to be very fast. So you can see we have the Badlands and the Igneous. They're combining together at a very low intensity. I'm doing a quick erosion that just kind of softens out the transitions and makes it look like, you know, thousands of years of erosion have blended everything together. It makes it feel more natural. And then this is all our data maps that are created. So flow is basically, the simplest way I could describe it, are like the micro channels that water flows down when it rains, right? So after a trillion years of rain coming down, it flows down here. It flows through here, right? Slope, like I said, it's almost like facing ratio. If you know that in Maya, basically, it will select all of the faces that are, in this case, in X, and everything that is in Y will be white, and everything that is in X will be black. What that is helpful for is it picks up all the slopes, which are the sides, which will make the rocks look like they're, you know, coming out of the sand or whatever. And then height is just basically a simplified displacement map that's just setting one value for the lifted areas and then another value for the lower areas. They're all going into the splat map. So one into red, one into green, one into blue, and then they're all being output. I think it's almost done. So it should be done in a second. So let's take a look at that. So that's our displacement map. Great. And this is our splat map. And that's the refreshed one. So you can see there's much less nonsense there, which is what I wanted. Okay. And then our displacement map. Okay, fantastic. So let's go into Maya real quick. And I'll save this and close it. And you can see I have to clean my desktop.
Mine is getting dirty too.
Let's see. So can you export as an OBJ? That's that answer. So let's just open whichever file I happen to have here. So this is our lovely boy Cot.
Mayo?
Yeah, Mayo. Yeah, what did I say? I said Cot, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to create a plane, and I'm just going to scale that up to the size that I want that piece to be. So I'm going to make it about that big. Okay. I'll go to custom, history, freeze, transform, reset transformation. and I'm going to export this thing out. Okay. And now I'm going to open up Mudbox to do this step. And there it is. So if you bring it in and you don't see it, I just reset the camera position, and there it goes. It's a big terrain, so you might have to adjust your clipping plane, and there we go. I'm going to subdivide this thing 9 times. I could subdivide it higher, but I'm going to bring this into ZBrush in a second, and 9 is the highest ZBrush will allow me to bring it in. Sculpt using maps, new operation. I'm going to select the plane. I'm going to select the map that we exported, which is erosion. And I'll press go.
Mudbox is actually better at this displacement process than ZBrush, for anyone who's wondering why you're not using it.
And let's set this to 2,000, 20,000. So you could see at first you're like, wait a minute, nothing happened when you did that. It created a new layer, called it displacement. 7,000. 120,000. Jeez. Okay, so now I'm starting to see it break. So you could see it break whenever you're getting stuff like that. So now you could start bringing this down. Wow, this is crazy. Let's do 25. So 75 is too much. Let's do 55. Let's do 45. Okay. And that should be fine. And I'll hide the grid just so we could not see it. So again, it's just a ground breakup. I'm going to try one thing here that I'm curious. So I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to go back to UVs and maps, sculpt using maps, new operation. I'll select the plane again. I'll select the erosion. And under advanced, I'm going to set the mid value to 0.5. And then I'll do go. Let me just fix that because I do notice that something is looking funky here. So I want to get rid of that. Okay, so let's try that. So I just moved those guys into another folder. So it's not that guy. There we go. Yeah, so that's looking better. 5. Yeah. So that was causing issues. So you can see this ground looks like there's much nicer detail there. So that's weird. It did not like that there was other files in there with the name erosion. As soon as I got rid of that, that looks better. So I remember I want to keep this flat. So I could keep cranking it up to get more detail, but I want this to be a ground plane. So I don't want to over crank this. Okay. Now that I have this, I now can step down to like level. Well, you know what? I'm just going to leave it at the highest level. I'm just going to output this model just like this. So UVs and maps, I'm just going to go to UV view, make sure the UVs look correct. That's fine. File, export selection. And let's call this high mud. So it's an extra step, but I now know that this terrain is going to line up exactly how I want inside of my world. Okay, and I also have all the subdivision layers here, so I could go in here and make any sort of edits. I could add more noise. I could add more cracks or whatever, and I could just save this out. If I ever need to make any changes, I could just constantly come back to this thing. So let's save that out. Okay, and let's save this in case. And there we go. Let's open up ZBrush. So you can see there's no loyalty. Use whatever tool. Use the best thing for each task. Okay, so here I'm going to go to import, and we'll bring in that model. So there we go. So there's our new ground plane. Let's put a better shader on this for now. We are going to go to our decimation master, because even though Nanite could bring in the heaviest of models, we still want to bring in something that is not silly high. Now here's the thing. It's not just about optimizing it. It's about the fact that if you bring in something that's too heavy, Unreal will crash. Unreal may be able to support these ridiculously heavy files, but it is not capable of reading the initial files if they're too big. So once they're in Unreal, it could do whatever, but the reading of those files, it still has a ton of issues, and it almost feels like there's a 2.5, 2 gig limit to imports, at least for Alembics for sure. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, like you'll sit there and you just wait for this. It will read it, but you can wait like,
You can wait an hour, you can wait 40 minutes, and it'll crap out.
yeah.
So its reading ability is still not up there. So we're going to decimate this. So keep UVs, percentage of decimation. We could bring this to something like that. Right, so you can see we could decimate it just a little bit. and then we'll do pre-process current. Very important, keep UVs, pre-process current, and this is going to take a moment. So um,
How dense is that mesh?
26 million. So
Yeah,
with
it's nice.
with my graphics card, I could have easily taken this to 100 million in Mudbox or higher, but it will not import into ZBrush. What were you gonna say?
No, yeah, that's gonna take a few minutes at least.
Yeah, it's gonna take a moment. So this is gonna be very boring. So if you guys have any questions, now's the time to
To ask.
yeah.
For those who are wondering, you guys can see my screen. I'm like just continuing to work on the set.
Yeah, you probably want to show that while this is doing that.
I'm finaling the mesh, and I'm just trying to extrude parts, figure out what the detail of this looks like. I don't want to put too much effort into this because it's going to get backlit and you won't really see it. So I'm just working out its flow. And this way it's easier to extrude that kind of stuff. It's not super exciting either, but at least it's maybe a little bit better.
It's better than seeing a progress bar move horizontally.
Yeah.
Bobby says he's surprised none of the apps have crashed yet. Yeah, me too. But you might have just jinxed it.
Yeah, I know. He totally jinxed it.
It's gonna crash now.
Yeah, so I'm just doing this type of stuff, setting up the edge loops. And I was cleaning up some instances over here because I was just not being very intelligent. I try to break out my stuff. Like this piece and this piece and this piece are identical. And I want them to be instanced. This way, if one gets UV, they all get UV. And then they just share the same textures, which is fine because they are just not like seen enough for them to need special textures. I'm looking at this and I'm finding this curve pretty ugly and just trying to fix and work on the flow.
Ted wants to know if you could show your instancing pipeline.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah, I'll show it. Let me just save this and let me save another version. When you use instancing, your file sizes will be much smaller, way smaller. But if you have like a bad crash, it could corrupt the whole thing, which is really terrifying. So I'll start with, I'll get rid of everything except for this one plane. So I always start with like just a plane with the fewest amount of points. And then what I'll do is I'll group this and then group it again. And the reason why I have subgroups, let's pull this out. The reason why I have subgroups is so that when I replicate over, it just copies it. So I'll grab this and I'll do a negative instance, and I really pay attention to my pivot, which is in the center of the world right here. And I always build from the center, and everyone should always build from the center. I'll do a negative instance, and you can see they're empty. And I'll have one plane on the outside that's not part of the system, just in case. I'll duplicate that plane, and I'll drop it into, let's open this up, this subgroup. And you can see it shows up in the other one over here too. And I'll duplicate that again, and you can see it's duplicating over there. And now I'll just have one plane. I'll hide this one. That's just part of the system. And I'll just come in, and since it's like a window design, what I've done, I just turn the lights off. This way it makes it easier. And then we just have Zort somewhere. Oh, there he is. And he just serves as like a scale reference. And so once I have something like this, I'll just start with a pattern. So the way, you know, the crystal design we kind of worked out, Miguel did a sketch. That way we...
So just to clarify, it's whatever you're doing on one side is just mirroring over on the other side.
Yeah, it's just mirroring. Okay. And I'll just throw in something like that. And I can keep extruding. Now, sometimes I want to feel like I'm drawing, especially when I'm still designing. So I don't want to keep extruding stuff. What I'll do is, let me grab this plane because I want to use quad draw. And for quad draw to work, it needs like to have a mesh to grip itself onto. So this will just serve as something that it could stick to. And then I'll throw it into a layer like this way it could be hidden. And I'll turn that to make live and I'll hide it. And I'll just create like my first mesh like this, and I won't worry about it. It will show up here. I'll drop that into the system. And now this just gives me more flexibility, right, to like work out patterns. I am familiar, kind of very familiar with how crystal patterns look because I have a collection of crystals. so, so like I super know like how they should feel like and what their cuts would look like. I'm not doing it exact or anything like that.
You like crystals? I didn't know that.
Don't be sarcastic. And then I'll do something like this. And so I start building this kind of design. And then from here, I might be like, okay, cool. I want to build out other stuff. Like, how does everything else feel placed in this world? You know, maybe I want to do kind of like a diamond, another diamond pattern here, which is what I had. I'm already thinking, since it's a diamond, the snapping is kind of messed up. Snap it like this. So the snapping gets kind of screwed up when you have a lot. It just didn't know what to snap to. But I'm thinking already here, I'm probably going to instance this. So I'm creating this with a straight, super straight line as one I want to instance over. And then I'll do a negative instance here. And you can see that pops up over here. And now I can work with on either side, right? And then now here, I can just go, well, if I want to replicate that over, I can also instance that over here. And so now when I start creating patterns, since this mesh exists already, I can quad draw. And I can just have like kind of, oh, I think it doesn't like this crazy pattern I have. I can kind of just do something like this. And I can see, you know, very quickly how to lay things out. And it just seems like a bunch of sticks when I look at it. But it does like become something, right? Like it does look like this initially. And, you know, just like how, you know, if you're learning art, you learn like start very simple first and then start making it more complicated. Here, I probably start thinking about like an arch pattern, right? And then just start building this out. And it's just super, super quick initially. But that's like my system. Kind of starts like that.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that looks awesome. But yeah, it's like that. And then, you know, you just keep working on it. And then I just keep refining it.
You did that window in a few hours.
Yeah.
That did not take you long.
No, it didn't take me so long. And then now, you know, I'm fleshing it out. Like I take it from that shape and you can still see it and it's really flat. And they're not really clean. And then I'll start connecting the pieces. I also will decide, like this will be separate mesh, right? It won't be like merged. You don't have to merge everything. That just makes everything complicated. I'll decide what needs to be merged and then I'll just extrude them out. And you can see I'm just fleshing out these thicker pieces first.
Genius 20 says we watched the Nino yesterday. So cool, guys. Instant fan. That's very nice of you.
Thank you.
So I could take over. You want me to take over?
Mhm.
Okay, so this thing is done processing now. And if we look at the wireframe here, we could see it is still evenly quad. And now I could just go to Z plugin again and decimate current. Give it a second, and it is going to triangulate the model in a way that it feels is more efficient, and it is more efficient. So you can see it still looks the same. It's just it went from 26 million polygons to 2.8 million polygons. So the truth is that just traditional quad modeling is not really efficient, right? And it's just dividing everything evenly, regardless of whether it needs subdivisions in a particular area or not. It just divides everything the same. When you render something with displacements, it uses view-based, view-dependent displacement, which is much more efficient. It is only adding triangles where it needs it. And in an area like this that looks like it's smoother, it does not have as much triangles as it has in this area. Much smarter. But we, as humans, use the quads because it's cleaner to rig and it's easier to model that way. But the truth is it's not very efficient, and you could just see that in the poly count here. So anyway, you need to do this step first, and then what you're going to do here is we're going to import the map that we just exported out of Gaia, which is our splat map here. Okay? And this map here, I could now apply it. It doesn't look like it totally lines up. Do I have to flip this thing? I probably do, right? Or did they fix that already?
No, you always have to flip it. It's not changed in years. Um, yeah, where's the map? You know, one thing I noticed lately when I've been using this version, when I import the map, I can't find it, and I keep importing it until it shows up.
Well, let's try to bring it in again.
Oh, there it is. That really colorful thing.
Yeah, there it is.
Select that, and then hit flip vertical, and then you should be able to load it as a texture now. There it is.
There it is. Now you can see it lines up.
But that whole part is like really kind of buggy.
Yeah, super funky. So anyway, there it is. So now I just have to go to my poly groups, no, my poly paint, and poly paint from texture. So let's turn on RGB. And that is now going to be, it does look like a splat, yeah. Okay, so now that is poly painted. However, if you export this as an OBJ, it's not going to be there. So we'll just go to our Z plugins. We'll go to our FBX exporter. Where did you go? There you are. You don't have to set anything here. The defaults are there. It does do the poly paint, and we'll just go to export. And let's call this high mud. That's fine, and save it. And it's going to take a second to export again.
Yeah, you get like how long exporting takes.
Yeah, it takes forever.
And then when you stream, you're like, oh. Is that too many colors though?
No, it's red, green, and blue.
That even that cyan and it has like yellow, but I guess you can separate it, right?
Well, red, green, and blue is every color. With those three colors, you can make any image on the planet. So when you're seeing a a color that doesn't look like solid red, it's because there's a little bit of red in there too, and a little bit of blue. It's not a solid.
But their system does separate it. So then you can split it up.
No, I mean it is split. It is split already. If you were to look at the red channel, it would look correct. If you looked at the green channel, what I'm saying is every channel, every like this, the flow is cutting into areas that are also green.
Yeah. So then they're just mixing up.
Yeah, they're just mixing up and making, the other colors that happen when you add them together.
Okay.
Remember, every image on Earth that's on a computer screen is made up of red, green, and blue only. So when you're seeing colors that aren't red, green, and blue, it's because they're mixed up. Okay, so there, it's exported. So now we can go back to the beast, right? So I'll just move over here. And let's just go over here. And let's just make a new folder. There it is.
Bobby says it looks like tie-dye. It does.
It does. Okay, so build nanite, that's fine. All of this is fine. The thing that's important is vertex color import options. Set it to replace. You have to set that on. Otherwise, the default is ignore. Okay, so there it is. Replace. Let's just double check everything. Everything else looks fine. And import all. I always get scared when I'm importing something.
Yeah. I feel like it's gotten better though.
Yeah.
But it used to be a very, for me at least, I felt like it was really stressful before. And the one thing I do is like when I import, I don't have it convert as nanite or anything like that. I've been converting it afterward.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. That way, it doesn't have to overthink upfront.
Yeah, because when you import it, because all my stuff has UDIMs, you have to turn on UV precision, and it's not actually in the import settings. At least since I last checked, maybe they changed that, but I'm pretty sure it's not. And so it takes like I just do it in steps because I've gotten stuck on meshes, and then that seemed to really help.
So you can see it's a lot of waiting. CG is
It's a waiting
it's a
game.
lot of waiting.
Yeah.
CG is a lot of waiting. Writing is a lot of procrastination. Have you guys met people that lost interest in CG? Yeah, every time I look in the mirror. I'm like, hey, guy, how's it going? I really just want to focus on writing and directing. I still love CG, but at this point, it's out of like necessity.
Yeah, because our goal is like not just to build like, hey, here's a set, and hey, here's a character, which is cool to do that. But we're really trying to tell a story. So everything is just a means to tell that story.
Okay, so we have this here. So first thing that I'll probably do is I'm just gonna go in under modeling again, and I'm just gonna go to attributes and paint vertex colors. I just want to make sure that the vertex colors are in there. And we are going long, so I might have to continue this next week, but I'm going to try to get it all in there.
It's just the import time.
Just so you know, we are waiting again.
I finished this mesh almost.
You know what it is, Bobby? It's not that we've lost interest in CG at all. It's just I'm completely fine with not having to learn how to transfer vertex IDs. Like I'm ready for someone to handle that part and then just kind of focus on the bigger picture than oh, why is the skeleton not retargeting correctly? Like that part of CG, I think I'm tired of, but I still love the artistic side. But you know, we're carrying a lot of weight doing these films, and I just want to focus on the bigger picture, the art direction, the
Yeah, there's like, you know,
yeah.
when you have a team, right? Then it's easier. You're not trying to do all that. It just becomes exhausting. I still really like it because I like art, right? And it is like my form of art, but it's no matter how much you like it, you can be overwhelmed. But you know, all those people out there, like when you look at their work, um, they're really good artists. It really comes from just, I think, just loving
So
what they do.
let's take a look at this. If I come over here and so now we're in our vertex editor. So you can see my red channel. So try and pay attention because this is what you were asking. Red channel,
Uh-huh.
green channel,
Oh, it separates it really nicely.
blue channel.
Mm, look at that channel. That's where you're getting all the soft gradients, huh?
Yeah. But so all of that is working fine. So I'm just going to go back to selection mode. So now what we could do is we'll go back to our materials, masters. We have our Gnomon one. And let's replace this. You could see instantly that we're seeing the blend of materials. See that?
Yeah, that's really nice.
So we could come over here and let's open up the Gnomon shader, and you can see the third guy is still using the bricks. That's why we're seeing the bricks there. So we could just go to our surfaces and let's find. So what do we have here? Let's see. We have Icelandic rocky ground and tea dirt. So let's try this one. It's a very different looking one. Oh, so that's the 4K one. We could do the 8K one. Let's do the 8K one. Okay. So now we zoom out, we could see that we have that. So at this point, if we think that's too bright or whatever, we could come over here. So let's just tone down the colors for the sea. So I'm just going to come over here. Okay, so this is the sand here. And we could go to albedo controls, tint. Okay, so we could do that. We could go to this guy over here if we wanted to. This guy's not having a ton of effect. This guy is. So you darken that rock. That looks like that's the protrusion that is really doing a lot. Okay. So now we could come over here and play with the blend. So you could see more of the rock, less of the rock. We could come over to this one, blend control. Bringing them in, and it's using those flow maps to determine where they're going to go. Okay. And let's just throw in a new camera. Let's increase our camera speed. One second here. So we're still gonna have to break this up a little bit because I definitely see some repetition. So I'm gonna turn on my 70 millimeter. But the thing I gotta remember is we're down at such a low level that I'm not gonna see all that other stuff, especially once I go in and I start adding some of the 3D elements. So let's just go to something like this. And remember, we got to sell that scale. So I want this stuff to feel like it's bigger.
I just crashed.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Put a couple of these little guys. You can see it works pretty well. At any point, you could, if you look at this and you're like, oh my God, you know what? I want the order of these guys to be different. We could always do a shuffle. And we could make the red go into the green go into the red, or the green go into the blue, and the blue go into the red. And now you can see the order is completely flipped. So now red is this, green is this, blue is this. So if you want to change that order around, you could do it. Unfortunately, you cannot change the order inside of the shader. Like I wish it allowed you to pick one for red, one for green, and one for blue, but you're kind of stuck with it once you have that. You can see if I turn off texture blending, it goes right back to that, and if I turn off displacement, it goes back to that. So you could see what that is actually doing. Okay, last thing is the scale of these guys. So you can see here, this is how much it's repeating. Maybe it's not repeating enough. So I could crank this up. So this feels more like a smaller dirt. And one thing to keep in mind is this might look terrible if I zoom out because it might look super repetitive. But again, I'm thinking macro level, and I'm like, oh, I like the little detail that this is giving me. Maybe something like that. Okay, cool. Let's go back to vertex blending. And I could increase the repetition of each one of these shaders. So you can see the rocks less or more. And over here again, global scale. Are the rocks bigger or smaller? I'm doing it in reverse, but you get the idea. Okay.
You know, we always wanted to do some kind of like project where you have like that the macro look,
Yeah.
and we're finally doing it. Okay.
Yeah. So there you go. Displacement setup from Gaia into Unreal with vertex IDs using the Easy Mapper, which is from William Foucher. It's very cool. I highly recommend it. There's much more controls than just the stuff I showed you. There's saturation controls, contrast controls, all that stuff. But this is the stuff that we're going to need for the rest of the project. Let's go back to just to lit. Yeah, that's showing you basically, where is it? The primitives, instances, clusters, triangles. So you could see if you go to like that, you're kind of seeing like a kind of X-ray-ish instances that looks the same. The clusters is the one that really shows you the nanite. But anyway, that's it. Works pretty well. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it.
I think it was cool.
Is it similar to tilt shift? No. So basically, what tilt shift does is it is defocusing like a vignette. It's a vignette defocus. What tilt shift also doesn't do is tilt shift doesn't actually have respect for depth, meaning whatever is closest or further, it's going to defocus it the same if it happens to fall under the area of the vignette, the defocus vignette. This is respecting the depth. It's just such a large sensor that the depth of field is, or the defocusing, or the shallow depth of field is the proper terminology, becomes extremely blurry, but it is not the same. So tilt shift does not really respect the proper depth. It is just like it's almost like a post effect. So it's just like a fake blur around the outsides, right? But yeah. Is the Threadling playlist available in YouTube now? The music? Okay, I will put it up on Instagram today, I swear. I didn't think you guys actually wanted to hear it, but we've gotten a few requests for that, so I will put it on Instagram. Okay, so anyway, that's it for today. I hope you guys are doing good, and I hope you learned something from today. And yeah,
We'll be back next week,
we'll be back next week.
and I'll see how far I can get on my set.
That's right. All right. Thank you guys. Donkey Show. No, that's not how you have to. You have to say bye like what you're doing earlier. What's the
I don't know.
how would a teenage girl write that?
Bye. I have no idea. I'm old. I have no idea how young
Does
people talk.
goodbye for now just GBFN kind of something?
Well, I didn't even know what that was. So that's like That's new to me. Late boomer. Later boomer.
You know, I think Netbug did it without even meaning to.
No,
I think see ya
later boomer. That's true.
later, boomer.
You're a boomer too.
All right, guys. We'll see ya.